This is Boris. He wants to edit like the big dogs on YouTube so he can be invited to their little secret party. Isn't that right, Boris? Anyways, let's show him how to edit like a super advanced pro editor. Let's start with one of the most important things you can learn for video editing, nested sequences. If you're not using nested sequences, you're straight up sawing yourself in half. So what is a nested sequence? That's a nice question, Boris. But who allowed you to speak? Anyways, a nested sequence is a timeline inside of a timeline, kind of like those Russian dolls. Some people use this for organization, like some sort of anarchist, but what the cool kids use it for is putting makeup on Boris, just like this little nice smile. So you can get effects like this. I definitely have some sort of autism. And to use it, all you need to do is right click on whatever you want to become a nested sequence. You can select multiple clips, by the way. And then when you right click, this menu will pop up, and then click on nested clips. Name it whatever you want, and boom, here's your new little timeline that you can caress. To go into your nested clip, double click on it like this. To leave it, you can click on this to go back to your main project. So how is that, Boris? You now know the most useful thing in Premiere Pro, but I have something bigger for you. You can have the best edits ever, but with bad pacing, your video will feel off. Just like this deformed ugly person. Pacing is the rate at which your video moves. So the sections that you want to show deeper emotion / context scenes, you want to have fewer cuts and longer, more drawn out sounds and music. And scenes that you want the viewer to have less time to think / action scenes, you'll have more snappy edits with quick sound. And for all of my blind viewers, here's an example of fast and slow pacing.
Oh, what a lovely day this is.
Hopefully I don't get killed by anybody. Alright, let's get these guys.
Licky him up, got this guy.
This is some goofy voiceover. Also, most of the time you need to transition between slow and fast pacing. Because if you're watching a video that has a very fast paced intro and then it cuts to some slow montage without any context of why it's slow, it will feel trashy. But these are just guidelines and not rules. Just like the Geneva Convention. Alright Boris, you now know some of the advanced UI tools that Premiere Pro has to offer. Let me show you some advanced visual effects. The first one is advanced zooms. Zooms are like methamphetamine, kids love it and I make it. So click on this folded paper icon and then drag your adjustment layer onto the timeline. Then drag a transform effect onto the adjustment layer. Now you can use the scale thing and everything under the adjustment layer will be scaled. So now you can do effects like this. I'm kidnapped in the back rooms, that's crazy, whoa. If you want to make this more hypnotic, use the ease in and out effect. To do this, right click on your keyframe and then scroll down until you see ease in and ease out. And you have to do this for the first and last keyframe. And remember, everything you put on an adjustment layer, all the video elements under it will be affected. Masking is pretty simple, unless you're some unwashed troglodyte. So it's in the effects controls, opacity, and you'll have these three options. You can use a circle, a square, or the free drawing / pen tool. We're going to be using the pen tool for the little effect I'm going to be showing. So I want to mask out this grass in front of this guy so he fits into the scene and doesn't look like some third grade clip art. All you have to do is dupe the layer with the grass and then put it on top of the dude and get to masking. Once you're done, you can play around with the mask expansion and the feathering. Expansion is basically enlarging the mask like a diabetic kid who can't stop eating. Feathering is, well, feathering the edges and like smoothing it out, some bullcrap like that. I bet you just use the eyedropper tool to remove the green screen and go pick up a cupcake like EDP. But sometimes you might get this weird cancerous green outline and damn, don't we hate that. So it's a pretty simple fix. Just mess around with the transparency, choke, and soften. And if that didn't work, well, you're screwed. Your green screen's like trash. And there's nothing you can really do, just cope. And also, if you have a black background and you want to get rid of the blacks, if you change the blending mode to screen, the black should go away. But if it looks bad and it's still bleeding, you can add the Luma key and mess around with these two options. Animations are very complicated, but to master animation, you have to learn the keyframe, understand the keyframe. Basically, just mess around with the velocity menu. Click on this little arrow key to bring up the velocity menu and mess around with it. Just open up a new Premiere Pro project and just create a bunch of different animations because practice usually makes you better, unless you have some learning deficiency. Also, timing. If you want your animations to look realistic, you need to get good at timing. Basically, how fast an object would move during the animation. So if I throw a punch, the initial animation will be fast and it will be speeding up, because when a human starts a punch, the human body will go slow, somewhat slow at the start, and then when it's about to hit the person, it's gonna hit peak speed, and when it hits contact with the face, it's gonna slow/bounce back a little bit. So here's an example. This is also a good time to use nested clips again, because if you want to make an adjustment layer animation and you only want certain things flying up and not everything, like for an example, I want to have these two words move up at the same time. Instead of having to animate them individually, I can just slap an adjustment layer on top of them. But you're going to notice if I do that, this gray background will also move up as well, and I want the gray background to remain stationary. All I have to do is to select the adjustment layer and the two text layers and then nest them together, and now the gray background is no longer sliding up or being affected. One quick tip I want to touch on that a lot of people don't talk about is if you use the transform effect with a shutter angle and you try to scale an image or a video, it scales from the corner and just looks kind of weird. But there's a way to make it scale through the center, and you're gonna have to fondle around with this, and all you have to do is change your anchor point to 960 by 540 and then just move your position till the image is back into the center, and now you can scale it and zoom it, and it should be scaling into the middle, kind of like this. And unfortunately, it looks like Boris has something to say.
Now I know how to do these video effects, but when do I use them?
I'm impressed, Boris. That's the first time you've ever said anything of value. So when should you use these video effects? You should use zooms when you want to emphasize a certain thing that you're saying/showing. And since you're becoming an advanced editor, use animations everywhere. Don't show any mercy, because you want to level up your animating skill level. Now Boris, let me tell you some advanced cutting tips. I wish the timeline was emo so it would cut itself, but unfortunately it's a line of code, so it's emotionless. So that means we're going to have to learn how to properly cut it. I used to think otherwise, but Mr. Beast said himself, if you want to have a somewhat successful video, you're going to want to keep the clips in your intro 1.5 seconds long, so that the scene has to be changing every 1.5 seconds. That means you need to do 20 cuts in a 30-second intro, which is honestly astounding. And of course, this means we're unfortunately contributing to the great brain death. Now Boris, it's time to bless your ears with the art of sound design. Without good sound design, your video feels bad. And now you're probably saying, my video feels fine. And you're absolutely wrong. It's not fine. The first one is bass. A thing to keep in mind if you're using very bassy sounds is the mobile people won't hear it, unless they sold their new firstborn for an Apple phone. Sound is the best storyteller. It'll help convey a better story that will help people watch it, all the way from little kids addicted to shorts to full-grown men who love watching kids watch shorts. Like a gun sound effect tells the story that someone pulled a trigger and wanted to shoot their weapon, or a literal voiceover narrating the story. Just keep in mind to use sound effects to amplify the story beats, making things more stressful or making things more calm. And of course, common sense. Sound effects will help you with keeping the viewer watching, because after all, it is a dopamine hit. Remember I said I have a surprise for you? Well, here it is. It's a Discord server made by one of my friends, Cravest, and it has YouTubers like me and you inside of it. So go check it out, link in the description, say some words in there, and promote some kindness. And if you want to watch a video on how to make lobotomizing subtitles, watch this video. So go click on it. Go click.